Hello, and welcome to Sisters in Sales, Improving Sales Performance Through Flexing. The key insights to selling anything to anyone and managing even your most demanding client. I'm Sherilyn Castleman, and I am Head of Education and Growth for Sisters in Sales, and I'm also the Managing Partner for CGI. Sisters in Sales is a community of professional women of color sellers who network, help advance each other's careers, and create a community. Early in my career, I had the opportunity to present to a group of women that you see here on the screen. They are attorneys in Atlanta. They were engaged. They laughed at my stories. They enjoyed my jokes. And most importantly, at the end of the presentation, 85% of them became my clients. I was thrilled. I thought I had figured out how to sell what I was selling at the time. And I knew that if I just did a workshop every month, I would continue to advance my career and to hit my goals. This month, when I presented to these women, I was at the top of the leaderboard. I had the best month I had ever had, and I was so excited for my next month. The next month, I had the opportunity to present to this group of professionals, and they are Atlanta's Black engineers. I went in and I did the exact same presentation. They didn't laugh at my jokes. They didn't enjoy my stories. They were not engaging. They didn't ask any questions. And at the end of my presentation, they stood up and walked out, and not one of them became a client. I was horrified. I was sick, and I asked myself, which is what I do at the end of every presentation or at the end of every client meeting, Sherilyn, what did you do well and what could you have done better? And I realized that what I did well is I had a well-prepared presentation. What I could have done better is flexing, and I could have been more versatile around their social styles. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to observe, identify, and flex based upon your audience's social style. So one of the things that I want to encourage you to be today is I want you to be like the bamboo. Bamboo is strong. In some parts of the world, bamboo can grow 36 inches in 24 hours. They are one of the strongest and most resilient woods out there. I want you also to be flexible. Bamboo can tolerate wind and hurricane. And the other thing that I like about bamboo is that I call it authentic. And what I mean by that is no matter how difficult, how windy it is, it remains green. It doesn't turn purple or red. It doesn't turn blue. And so I want you to be authentic. So I'm going to challenge you to flex. I'm going to challenge you to understand and mirror and match to be a better communicator, but keep yourself rooted and grounded in who you are authentically. When we did this webinar, the participants did have a chance to input their answers, but in your case, jot it down on a piece of paper and actually do the exercises as we move forward because the polling has been closed. For this workshop, about 40% of our attendees were founders or entrepreneurs, 20% were in account management, business development, and another 20% were sales professionals who are also a sidepreneur. And a sidepreneur is someone who has a full-time job and a side hustle. Again, I'm Sherilyn Castleman, and one of the things that I talk about, which you'll see in my blog or on my website, is I'm always talking about growth. And whether I'm coaching or training, I'm always building awareness, encouraging action, and together, that's where the growth comes. So today I'm going to challenge you and ask you, what are you aware of? What did you learn? What new insight did you gain? And then what action can you take? Because if you don't take action, you don't have growth. So today you're going to learn 3 simple steps, which are the framework to give you the insight so you can improve your sales performance. You're going to build skills to be able to manage your most demanding clients. And you're also going to learn how to flex so that you can build better client relationships, and not just better client relationships. My daughters flex, and we have been using flexing as our communication style for most of their lives. I flex with my husband, I flex with my family, my friends, as well as my colleagues and my clients. So outcomes from today's workshop are that you will get an introduction to social styles. You will gain respect and build confidence when you speak. You're going to build better relationships, improve your performance, and you have the opportunity to learn how to recognize different social styles. We took questions at the end. I would encourage you, if you have questions after you read this, just shoot me an email and I will answer your questions. Okay, first section we're going to talk about is observable behaviors, personality versus social styles. You ever look at a pie, one of those fresh baked pies, and you can see the crust. You can even maybe see a little sugar crystals twinkling on the outside of the pie, and you wonder, oh, is that a fresh peach pie? Is that a tart cherry pie? Is that one of my favorites, kind of a sour strawberry rhubarb pie? We are the same way. We have observable behaviors on the outside, and on the inside is our personality. So behaviors are what you say and do, and your social style is a pattern of these behaviors. And that's what we're going to practice today, is how to build our observation skills. So let's start with this group of women. At first glance, this first group of women look like women of color with their arms folded. But I'm going to challenge you to look a little closer. Let's build your observation skills. So let's start with the woman on the far left. You'll notice that she's fairly rigid. She's standing very tall. If you look at the woman, the third woman here on the bottom, you'll notice that she's leaning to the right, just slightly. And the woman up here at the top is leaning forward with her head back. And you'll also notice, let's look at their hands. The chef here has her hands tucked in like she's trying to hide them. Again, the woman on the left, you can see her hands. The woman on the bottom left, you can see her hands. And some of these women, you can see one hand. The woman here on the right, you can see one hand. Look at their eyes. Look at how they smile. And look at what they're wearing. Is what they're wearing more casual, or is it formal? Are they more relaxed in their attire? Are they smiling with their eyes? Are their arms crossed because they stand this way, or do their arms crossed because the photographer poses them this way? So what I asked you to do is write down what are some verbal and nonverbal behaviors that you can observe with people. Their clothing, their tone, their facial expression, how loud they speak, how soft they speak. Do they have an animated face, or are they very rigid and they keep their expression very controlled? Can you see that they're tired? Their posture, are they sitting upright, or are they leaning back when they talk? These are things that as salespeople and entrepreneurs we can observe. So now I'm going to give you a chance to do this. So remember, we're looking for whether they're quiet, loud, slow or fast-paced, whether their facial is animated or controlled. Is there a lot of inflection in their voice and they get very excited, or is it less? Are they making eye contact? Are they rigid or casual? And do they sit up, or are they leaning back, or are they really leaning forward and listening to what you say? Okay, so let's see what you can observe about Dani in her conversation with Ellen.
All this happened. I will say Oscar night was pretty awesome. Frances McDermott came up and said some amazing things to me. I had no idea she knew who I was, things like that. Yeah. I got to meet Beyonce and Jay-Z. That was pretty cool. Wow, that was pretty cool. They were saying really awesome things, and I was starstruck. So all I kept saying is that I am starstruck. I am starstruck.
What did you observe about Dani? Was she loud? Was she quiet? Was she slow, fast? How animated was she? Was she able to maintain her control? Was she rigid? Was she colorful? Were her clothes more muted? So Let's see what the audience thought. They thought she was excited, that she was rigid. She was quite rigid. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap. She was very polite. She was poised, very controlled. She looked a little nervous. She was on the Ellen show, but confident. Her facial expression, she although she was excited, she kind of kept it under control. So let's look at the next one. Let's remember what you're looking for. Let's take a look at Jennifer Lopez.
Because I feel like, because you know me. Yeah, man, and I'm like, I feel like you're a brother. You're like, I'm like, come on, sis, do it. You know, I'm like, come on. But I go, Nancy, watch, because this is watch. It's worse when you know the person. I'm telling you, Alex was literally a zombie. He was like, and I'm walking around like right before I go out in that outfit, and I'm like, you okay?
Okay, so now when you look at Jennifer, and in reference to Dani, is she faster? Is she louder? Is she quieter? Is she slower? Is she more controlled? So jot down a few things that you observed about Jennifer. Jennifer is very expressive, enthusiastic, animated. She takes up more space. Her hands were moving. She's authentic. She smiled, great eye contact. She owned her presence. She was very comfortable and a little boisterous. Remember these behaviors, and you're going to get a chance to use these as we move forward. So one of the things that I do when I am meeting with a client or even meeting with a colleague, in the corner of my paper, when I first walk into the room, I observe them and I jot down 2 or 3 things that I notice about them. So if I was meeting with Jennifer, I would have written down that she's loud, she's animated, fast paced, she's leaning forward. What did I observe about Danini? I would have said she's a little more cool, a little more rigid and reserved, and she leaned back a little bit. And I note this on paper so that I can remind myself on how to flex and be a little more versatile in communicating with them. So let's summarize what we've learned. We've learned about observing, which is saying and doing, and these are some of the observable behaviors that we've talked about. So let's move on to identify. So there are 2 dimensions to identifying. The first one is observing on whether somebody emotes their feelings and emotions or they control them. Do they display a lot of feelings and emotions or do they control them? The second dimension that we look at is, do people ask and then listen, or do the people tell and they're talkers? So they ask and they listen, or are they telling and talking? And this creates 2 dimensions and it creates a matrix. So let's look at this matrix. The social styles model, which you see here in front of you, gives us a way to identify behaviors. And so you are analytical if you're more controlling and more asking, and you slow down and you listen for answers. You are driving if you are more controlling of your emotions, and you are telling people and you don't slow down to listen. You are more amiable if you have emotions, but you are asking and you are listening. And you're considered have an expressive social style if you are more emoting and you are telling and you're more fast because you don't listen. An important thing I want to remind you is social styles are just observable behaviors. There's no good or bad or best social style. It's not your personality. Remember, your personality is what's inside the pie, what's inside of you, like the fruit filling. Your style is just a theme of your performance, but you can adapt your style by building awareness and taking actions. And that's the growth that makes you more versatile, that improves how you communicate people. And I challenge you to grow in order to build effective relationships. Let's look at this matrix again. So either you control your emotions, and then you're either an analytical or you're a driver, or you display your emotions, and then you're amiable and you're expressive. If you're telling people and you're talking and you're not listening, you're a driver or you're an expressive. If you ask people and you tend to slow down and listen, you're analytical and you're amiable. So now we're going to put this into practice, give you a chance to apply this. Here's Tracy as Dr. Bo on Blackish. What I want you to listen for is, does she tell or ask her children? And also, does she display emotion or does she control her emotion? So is she controlling, displaying emotion? Is she asking, or is she telling?
The night of the party, Bo turned it up like the Obamas were coming. If there's one thing I've learned, it's don't cross Bo when she's wearing a caftan.
Hey, Mom. Hey, babies. Oh, food. Oh, no, don't touch that. Don't touch that. Don't touch that.
It's my inhaler. I need this to live.
Take a hit and beat it. I don't need you passing out down here. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, goodness. Whew. Mommy is wound up.
Was Bo controlling her emotions and cool, or did she display her emotions and she was warm? So was she an analytical or driver, or amiable or expressive? If she was warm, did she ask her children not to touch the food, or did she tell them not to touch the food? So pick one of these social styles and write it down, and let's see what the attendees thought. So the attendees were kind of split. The majority of them thought that Bo was an expressive, but almost half of them also thought that she was a driver. So let's go back to the model here, and you'll see that Bo is actually expressive. She told her children, don't touch the food. She was very, very expressive in her hand gestures when she was talking about, and then when she said, oh, mommy is so wound up, you could just see the emotion on her face. Okay, so let's give it a try again. So let's check out Kerry Washington as Olivia Pope in Scandal. So again, you're watching to see, does Olivia ask or tell? And is she controlled in her emotion, or is she animated? Controlled or emotional? Ask or tell?
He needs a favor.
I need to see him.
That's not possible.
He wants the favor. I do not work for him anymore. So you tell the President of the United States to make time.
In Washington, D.C., if a scandal is about to break, this is the woman who will make it disappear.
Put the guns down.
So he can't shoot me?
The only person who's going to get shot is me. I got this. Guns down!
Olivia Pope.
Okay, so is Olivia Pope asking or telling them to put their guns down? Was she asking to see the president, or was she telling him that she was going to see the president? Was she expressive like Bo, or did she control her emotions? So pick one of the social styles and write down which one you think it is. And the attendees thought that Olivia Pope in Scandal is 100% driver, and they got that absolutely right. Okay, let's do it again. This time we're going to look at Antonia Thomas as Dr. Claire Brown in The Good Doctor. Not a lot of asking and telling here, but I want you to listen for whether she is emoting or whether she's controlling her emotion.
I lost somebody recently, and it hurts a lot. And I took it out on you, and that is unfair.
Okay, so let's look at Dr. Brown. Was Dr. Brown warm or cool? Was she showing emotion or not showing emotion? And was she telling and not listening, or was she slow and able to ask and listen? So although she did all the talking, the most important thing I want you to look at was she warm or was she cool? And would she be the type of person that would listen, or would she be the type of person that would just tell people what to do and not listen? So go ahead and vote on whether she's analytical, driver, amiable, or expressive. So 88% of the audience and participants thought she was amiable, and 13% thought that she was expressive. So everybody got it correct that she is emotional. And so she does emote. She is warm. However, she's a listener and she talks fairly slowly. She didn't talk fast like Olivia Pope or like Bo. Okay, let's take one last look here. And let's check out Letitia Wright as Sherry. What I want you to listen for is, does Shuri ask or tell her brother about when she inquires about his upcoming trip? Listen closely. It is a fairly short clip.
My king. Stop it. Stop it. I've already sent a car ahead to Busan for you. Who are you taking with you to Korea? Okoye. And Nakia as well. You sure it's a good idea to take your ex on a mission? Yeah.
Okay. So when you look at Suri, is she controlling her emotions and she's cool, or is she displaying a lot of emotions as she warm? Did she ask her brother who he was taking, or did she tell him who he shouldn't take? So take a vote on whether she's analytical, driving, amiable, or expressive. And participants thought she was 78% analytical and 22% amiable. So everyone again got it correct that she is cool. Actually, amiable is expressive. So she was very pleased to see her brother. So she did emote a little bit, but not as much as Dr. Brown or not as much as Bo. So she's analytical. So let's look at, like I said, she's analytical. So when you look at the 4 personality styles, an analytical needs to be right. Another clue about Suri is that she's in STEM. A lot of times, women in science and technology in STEM are analytical. That's one of the reasons why I didn't connect with the team of engineers. I tend to be more, at the time I was quite expressive. I'm more of a driver expressive today. And so analytics tend to think. One of their weaknesses is that they push once they think they're right. Drivers are about results. They prefer action, and their weaknesses, they don't listen very well. I don't know if you watch Scandal, but Olivia doesn't listen. Bo needs approval and recognition, very spontaneous, and her weakness is that she can be impulsive. And people who are amiable need to feel safe. They're risk averse. They like relationships, but they can struggle to take action. Okay, so what are the 4 social styles that we've talked about? Jot those down. Let's see if you can remember those. I think the audience did a nice job in getting all 4 social styles out. Again, they are amiable, driving, expressive, and analytical. In addition to having a need and an orientation, there's also an opportunity for you to grow with your social style. So if you're expressive, your opportunity for growth is to check yourself. So periodically check yourself. Are you talking too much? Are you too spontaneous? If you are amiable, you've got to learn to initiate and take more action, even though you're risk averse and you like relationships. If you're a driver, your growth opportunity is to learn to listen better. I think drivers make excellent salespeople. They just need to learn to listen. And if you're a driver, you might want to look up level 1, 2, and 3 listening and learn how to get to level 3 listening. Level 3 listening is when you learn to listen between the words. You listen to what's not being said. You listen to tone. You listen to emotion in the voice. It's a great skill for drivers to learn. And the last one is analytics. If you want an analytic working on your taxes, you want an analytic on your team managing your data. The great thing about analytics is you're going to look at that data, but leverage that data to make decisions. Don't just be an analytic and get stuck with the data. So you're great thinkers, but you also have to declare and take action and make a decision. So here are the growth actions and as well as the needs and orientations for each of the social styles. So what's one thing you remember about this class so far? Just jot down one thing that you remember. People remember that You have to be observed. You have to observe people and listen to what they do and say. It's not about the personality. Personality's inside. How to flex to your clients, social styles, and look for areas for growth in yourself. Be like the bamboo and focus on growth and tailoring your pitch to the style. Okay, so we've talked about observable behaviors. We've talked about the 4 social styles: driving, expressive, analytical, and amiable, and that there's 2 dimensions. People ask, and they're slower so they can listen, or they tell and they talk real fast because they're not going to listen, or they emote emotions and they you can see it in their face and their hands, or they're more controlled, and that there's no good or bad or best social style. Whatever behaviors you exhibit, that's what you exhibit. What you can do is you can learn to be more versatile by flexing. And we're going to look at that now. So I wanted to give you some more data around these styles. And these next 3 slides were developed to address the 4 social styles. So if you are expressive, you probably like the pictures in the 4 corners. These pictures might help you remember the 4 social styles. A driver, if you look at this in the top corner, left-hand corner here, they are about results. They're going to take the shortest route to the results. An expressive is going to be very spontaneous, and amiable is risk averse, and analytic is again very detailed. Although a driver can be very controlled, they also can be overbearing sometimes. People can think they're insensitive or not caring. Expressives can be a little manipulative sometimes, although they're creative and innovative and visionaries and humorous and the life of the party. Amiables can be indecisive, which can be tough, but they're also so group-oriented and they care. They can be a stabilizing effect for a group. And finally, as I mentioned, you want analytics on your team. They're very detailed-oriented, but they can suffer from paralysis from too much analysis. For my analytics, the ability to flex and be more versatile and social skills talk about that they've seen a 92% more positive relationships. 97% report that this helped them be a better leader or a coach, and 94% say that they're more conscious about their clients. 66% increase their sales, 70% do a better closing, have better closing, and 76% build better relationships more quickly with their prospects. So there's a lot of data and research around this. If you need more information on this, shoot me an email and I can also send you some backup data. I also wanted to note that I am an accredited trainer for social styles and versatility training. And the final slide here, this is for the drivers who are watching this. If you want to bottom line this, the bottom line is people are either fast or slow or cool or warm. They are fast because they are talking and they're going to tell you and they're not going to listen. They are slow because they're going to ask you, what did you think about this? And they want to listen, so they slow down. People are either warm and emoting facial impressions and hand gestures, or they're cool and they're more controlled. As a salesperson or an entrepreneur, your job is to observe these and be able to identify the social styles. Again, this is a way to bottom line it. So whichever one of these slides works best for you, that's fine. I wanted to include them so that I could connect with all social styles. So now that we've observed and we've identified, let's talk about flexing. The question is tension good or bad? And the answer is both. If you have low tension, you have low productivity. If you see in the red, that's in the blue. If you look in the red here, if you have high tension, you have low productivity. You get high productivity when you find that right balance with tension. So let's talk about how the role of tension in social styles and flexing. So if you are an expressive and you are sitting with an expressive, you usually have low productivity. One of my best friends is very expressive, and she brings out the expressive in me. And her and I can sit and laugh for hours, and we will never get a single thing done. If you put two analytics together, they will analyze all the data, they will look at it, but they will never make a decision and move forward. The greatest productivity comes when working with someone who is on either side of your social style. So if an expressive and a driver are working together, they're both fast, they're going to get something done. If you put an expressive and an amiable together, although they both emote and they will connect on their emotion, because one is fast and one is slower, they will get it done. One will talk, one will ask questions. The same thing, you put an analytic and a driver together, you're going to get incredible results, or an analytic and an amiable together, you can get incredible results. Where the problem comes in is toxic relationships. Toxic relationships are when you have an analytic and an expressive, or you have a driver and an amiable. Either one creates a toxic relationship. I, at work, am a driver. And one of the things as a driver that I will do is when I walk in the office in the morning, I usually have my earbuds in, and I am talking, and I am frequently multitasking. I am walking, I am talking, I am either on a call, talking to one of my teammates, one of my colleagues, or listening to the pipeline report. I could walk in my office, and at the time, I was managing a book of business that was worth about $160 million. And I could walk in the office in the morning and I could look at my account director. I'm still listening in here, and she'd say, Sherilyn, we got the SOW signed, we're good. And I would turn and look at one of my account managers, and she'd say, hey, they're happy, things are great. So it was, that's how I was. Well, I got a phone call from HR, and they said somebody on my team was unhappy with me, and that she was unhappy with me because I wasn't communicating with her. I had to remember, she was an amiable, and I was a driver. And I realized that I didn't ask because I knew that it would probably take her 10 or 15 minutes to answer. She was going to be very emotional. She may cry. And I realized that I'm walking in the door, I am multitasking, I am moving. Now, once or twice a week, I would do a management, my walking around, and I would go talk to people, and I would slow down, and I would visit amiables and analytics and find out how they were and what they were working on, but I consciously had to flex to their quadrant. I would also then walk up to my drivers and my expressives, and I'd be and I would move to talk, and I'd talk faster. So as a manager, I had to do both. But on a daily basis, when I was walking into the office, I probably was a little abrasive with my analytics and my amiables. So if you think about a toxic relationship that you may have had, was it because they were that they were diagonal from you? And could you, if you think about it, flex and is a way to prevent those from having toxic relationships? So again, it's the same social style as where you are. Here for a second. Okay, if it's the same social style, at two expressives, two amiables, two analytics, or two drivers, your productivity is going to be low. If it's diagonal across from you and neither one of you is flexing, your productivity is going to be low. But if it's someone who is next to you and you've got that nice balance, you'll have high productivity. Okay, so where do you think the greatest potential of toxic relationships occur? And 100% of participants got this right. It is between the analytic and the expressive, or the amiable and the driver. So when we are under stress, we go to a backup behavior, and a backup behavior literally means you back up into your quadrant. So if you are a driver, you become faster and cooler, and that makes a driver take charge, and they become autocratic. If an expressive is stressed, they back up and become faster or warmer, and they will actually be confrontational, and they will confront you to reduce that personal tension. And amiable will become more emotional, and slower, and they will actually acquiesce. They will just go, okay, I'll just go along, whatever. And an analytic will avoid. They will cancel meetings. They will be a no-show. They will be busy in meetings and not participate. They just withdraw because they become more cold, cool, and slower. So when you want to remember backup behaviors, and if you observe these, you want to stop for a second. Because if you went in to talk to an expressive and they started out talking and being expressive, and all of a sudden they start attacking, you know that you've stressed them. If a driver starts dictating to you, you have stressed them. Or if you're scheduled to meet with somebody and your analytic has canceled, they're avoiding, maybe the topic is stressful for them. Or maybe something outside of work or something in work. At work, I was recently talking to one of my clients, and she had just been notified that her company was going to do a RIF, a reduction in force. And she was just attacking, and she said at work she was attacking people, and she realized that she was stressed. So being able to recognize when different social styles are under stress will help you with flexing. Okay, how do we use social styles when working with others? Let's put this into practice. Now, what do you perceive your social style to be? Are you expressive because you are fast and you're warm? Are you amiable because you are slow and warm? Are you analytical because you're cool and slower? Or are you driver because you're fast and you tell and talk and you're cool? Remember, there's not a best one. There's not a bad one. It's just which one do you exhibit most often at work? And that's how you can help improve it by flexing, as long as you know what you are. So there's not a good or a bad, but write down, where do you think you fall? 33% of the audience participants were analytical and drivers. 20% were expressive, and about 11% were amiable. And that's not uncommon for a webinar. A webinar can be risky for an amiable, especially if they don't know if they have to participate or not. So it's fairly common for amiables not to sign up for a webinar. Analyticals and drivers, you'll find will sign up for a webinar. Analytics want more information, and the drivers are hoping you'll just teach them something and get to the bottom line. Let's talk about, again, how you use social styles and the clues in dealing with relationships and at work. So when I was director of professional education at the #1 respiratory hospital in the country, I managed a department of professional education. And when I started managing them, our revenue was $240,000 a year. At the end of 3 years, our revenue was $4.6 million. And I received a phone call from the CFO, and he asked me, would I come by to tell him a little bit about what I had done, because he wanted to share my story with the board. This was about 20 years ago. I grabbed my BlackBerry and I went into his office and I sat down ready to tell him about how I had done focus groups and how I had connected with pharmaceutical companies to grow this revenue. And when I first walked into his office, I had done my research. I knew that he had 2 daughters and I had 2 daughters. And I came in and I said, how are the girls? My girls are busy with volleyball. They play competitive volleyball. It's just keeping me as a working mom busy. How are your girls? He stared at me and didn't say one word. He motioned for me to sit down. I sat down and he asked me, what was your gross revenue last year? And I said, oh, we did about 2.5 million. He looked at me. He said, what were your expenses last month? And I said, oh, around $40,000, maybe $45,000. He stood up. I stood up. He walked me to the door. He said, clearly, you are not prepared for this meeting. And he opened the door. I walked out. He closed the door. I did what I always do after a meeting. I said, okay, Sherilyn, what did you do well? What could you have done better? I realized one of the things that I did well is I did show up at the meeting on time. There were a whole lot of things I could have done better. I went up to my office, called his admin. She said, James thinks you're an idiot. She was a friend of mine, I knew. And I said, yeah, I know. I didn't do that very well. I said, does he have time tomorrow? I got on his calendar for the next day. The next day, I showed up in my black suit with my white camisole, with a pen, my spreadsheets, and a calculator. I walked in the door. I was polite, but reserved. I spoke very slowly. And when he asked me, Sherilyn, what were your expenses last month? I said, James, the team spent $45,037.21. He asked me what was my gross revenue. And I said, our gross revenue was $2,622,156.18. We spent the next hour reviewing my numbers. I stood up, he thanked me, and I went back to my office. At the end of the week, I get a phone call from the president of the hospital. And he says to me, Sherilyn, the presentation with the board went really well. They were thrilled with what you've accomplished. He said, would you do me a favor? I'd like you to sit on the board's finance committee for the United Way and represent me in the hospital. I was shocked that anybody thought that I could sit on any finance committee. I had flexed so well that they thought I had a financial acumen. In addition to that, 2 weeks later, I got a promotion and a nice raise. Although I knew how to flex and I did better than I did, and I was able to recover than I did when I worked with the engineers, it still wasn't unconsciously competent at it. I wasn't so good at it that I didn't naturally flex. And that's where you want to try to get, is when you're selling to an analytical, you want to be precise. You want to state facts. You want to organize your data. When you're talking numbers, one of the things that I learned, if you're talking in millions, you never say about 3 million. You don't even say 3.2 million. You take it to 3 digits. You say $3.26 million. When you're presenting, you use alternatives. And if you're going to list your alternatives with pros and cons, if you have 3 bullets, you include 3 bullets every single time. Speak slowly and be prepared. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a chance to do a little flexing. Remember Dani from the first video and Jennifer. Jennifer is our expressive. Dani is our analytical. If Dani is going to go into sell to Jennifer, what does Dani need to do to modify her style? So what could Dani do to adjust to sell to Jennifer? Jot down a couple ideas that you have, because Jennifer is very expressive. When Dani goes into Jennifer's office, Jennifer probably has on her walls photos of every accomplishment she's ever done, photos of her teammates, photos of her children. She's got little hearts and pictures that her kids have probably drawn. She's got her favorite quotes on the wall. She could smile. She could be more energetic, make more eye contact. Relax her posture, loosen up a little bit, emote, loosen up. These are things that Dani can do to connect with Jennifer. She could speed up because she speaks a lot slower. So when selling to an engaging expressive, be warm and approachable. Tell stories. I usually keep a couple stories about my daughters or cycling in my back pocket for when I'm talking to expressives. Be open, ask and answer who questions, show them how your idea is going to either get them recognized by their manager, by the leadership, help them get promoted, get them recognized by their team. What will it do to improve their image? And reduce the details. Expressives are just not in the details. You will find their offices tend to have a lot of files, and the files are not in the file cabinet. Selling to an amiable is actually, I think, one of the easiest sales. If you go in the door using the word we are going to work together, and I'm going to help you do this. I'm not going to leave you on your own to this. We're going to make sure that this is safe and the right things to do. I have to slow down. I don't rush, and I don't push, and I listen to them. Okay, so we've talked about selling to an amiable and an analytic and expressive. So the last person is a driver. I'm a driver. At work, I'm a driver. I want you to think about, what do you need to do to adjust your style to sell to me? Now, I promise you that when you walk in my office, I am multitasking. I have one phone call on my speakerphone. I used to be double booked that I was always on the phone. Sometimes I would have 2 phones on. I'd be on my cell phone and my office phone. It used to make me crazy, but that's how I would work. And so when a vendor or a salesperson would come to my office, I'd say, come on in, sit down, I'll be with you in a minute. And I am still multitasking. And I turn the phone off and I turn to you. What are you going to do? Here's some things that the audience thought. that you need to be quick and clear with your speech. You need to have an authoritative tone, like you know what you're talking about. Be reserved and straighten your posture. Add facts if you're going to tell me a story. Talk about solutions. This is what this is going to do for you. Be very specific. Be confident, lean in, and be forward about what you're going to do. Speak concisely. Get to the point. That's right. Don't waste my time. Be very quick about the benefits. Again, you want to focus on the task, be very businesslike. This is time to wear your power suit or your power dress and provide options. Remember that a driver is looking for power, control, and respect. Okay, if you are flexing your style, if you are an analytic and you are going in to sell to somebody, remember you as an analytic have to be flexible and open-minded. You have to show more concern for people and be decisive with your data and listen for feelings. So if you're an analytic and you're going out to deal with people, these are things you need to do. Flexing your style improves your versatility. Improving your versatility improves how you communicate and connect with people. If you are expressive, be restrained and check. Talk less, look at the facts, get comfortable with the facts, get comfortable with your numbers. Remember to control the time, control your emotions, and just check yourself. Think before you speak sometimes. If you are amiable, you have to decide. Be a little less sensitive. Take some risks. Say no. Just take a risk and say no. And let people know what you think. You're a smart woman. Voice your opinion. Let people know what you think. Flex that amiable style and improve your versatility. And if you're a driver, be careful about how overbearing you are. Tone down your intensity. You step on somebody's toes, it's really hard to go back and get them back as a client or a colleague. Be a little more patient and recognize that there are different points of view and learn to listen to those. So the higher your versatility, the better you are at forming relationships. So if you're an analytical, decide. If you're a driver, listen. If you're an expressive, demonstrate restraint and check yourself. And if you're amiable, declare and make a decision. What's one action item that you're going to do tomorrow to improve your versatility and flex your style? So think about your style, and regardless of who you're talking to, what is one thing that you can do? Some of the things that the participants of this webinar felt that they would listen more. An amiable person thought she wouldn't be quite so serious, asking more questions if you're a driver, talking less if you're expressive, toning things down, emoting more if you are an analytic, and listen and add more facts if you are expressive. To summarize what we've talked about observable behaviors and what you say and do. We've talked about how to identify social styles, whether you're a driver, expressive, analytical, amiable. And remember, most importantly, there's no good, bad, or best social style. And that flexing demonstrates versatility. And that a driver will back up and be an autocrat when they're under stress. An expressive will back up and confront and attack. An analytic will avoid and cancel meetings or not show. And an amiable will just give in. If you are flexing your style and you're an analytic, you need to decide. If you're a driver, listen. If you're amiable, declare. And if you're expressive, restrain and check. I want to conclude by again thanking you for the awareness that you've developed today and for participating, but I challenge you to act so that you can be like the bamboo and grow. One action that you can do is you can join Sisters in Sales. You can join to find out about upcoming events, networking events to advance your career. There's a job board, as well as just being part of the community. Go to www.sistersinsales.com. You can work with me. You can work with me as schedule your coaching session if you want to see if we have a connection. I don't charge for your very first coaching session. I will waive that as a participant watching this webinar. Or you can master your social styles. I do give a 4-hour workshop periodically. You can check out my website at masterfulselling.com, where you have a chance to actually practice what you've learned today. You'll complete your questionnaire to answer what your social styles are, as well as what your level of versatility is, and expand your understanding of what we've talked about today. Again, thank you for participating. Thank you on behalf of Sisters in Sales for watching this webinar, and always be like the bamboo and focus on growth.